Hello everyone and welcome to The Marketplace. Coming up this afternoon, unionized transport operators failed to secure government's approval to increase fares by some 20% this week, more as some drivers go ahead to increase fares despite caution from the government. Also coming up, government launches a performance tracker to monitor progress of infrastructure projects.
It's first of all a database. It's a database that showcases the performance of the government of Ghana. And it showcases it through the various projects that have been executed across the 261 districts.
We'll discuss if electorates will be swayed by data provided on the tracker in the upcoming elections. My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Thanks for being with us, everyone. Details in a moment. Well, first up, unionized transport operators have failed to secure government's approval to increase fares by some 20% this week. There's more in the following report on details of this crunch meeting with the Minister of Transport.
Meeting argued that more data is needed to justify the margin of increase in transport fares that the various unions were pushing. This is because government maintained that current development and the various model does not warrant the margin of increase being proposed. They therefore reached an agreement for a new date should be set to try and finalize negotiation on increase in transport fares. There is currently gentleman's agreement that any time price of petroleum products go up by more than 10% in a quarter, that should trigger negotiations between government and the transport operators for an increase. Joy Business is also learning that another reason why no deal was reached is that some of the unions at the meeting did not have the national chairman around. Therefore, government was worried that any agreement reached may end not bidding on all of them. The Transport Ministry has now set April 17, 2024, that is next Wednesday, as a new date for talks to resume on possible increased transport fares. But for some, with the inflation rate that has started going up, with the March rate hitting 25.8%, some are worried about the impact of fares going up on the economy and the cost of living going forward.
All right, joining me on Zoom, Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amwa. Good afternoon to you. He's actually joining me on phone. So, Duncan, we understand based on this meeting that government is requesting data from the transport operators to back their demand for a 20% increment. Your thoughts on this?
Well, Daryl, I am not surprised that the transport operators are asking for an upward adjustment in public transport fares. The only bit that I keep questioning is how they arrived at the 20% that is being proposed. We are quite mindful of the fact that it is not only fuel prices that go into computation of transport fares, but fuel prices play a significant role in how far they adjust fares. What I can put on record is that the past 6 to 8 weeks, when prices have gone up at the pump in respect of fuel, petrol and diesel, we've done cumulatively about 17% within the period. I do not think that even if they were to pass on the full stream of 17%, as in 1% for 1%, they will still be able to talk about 20% fully, mindful of the fact that the cost of parts, though have gone up, I'm not sure it is higher than we used to see before the beginning of the year. So we were thinking probably, like the Transport Ministry is, putting on the table 10% could be fair. But we are yet to, again, as we normally would have done, sit with the transport operators to understand the basis of the numbers that they are currently demanding for. But like I said, yes, fares could go up, should go up, but we are not quite sure if 20% is fair on the public who depend on their service.
To take a listen to the Deputy Transport Minister, Hassan Tampoli, because he was asked about calls to increase transport fares. He seems to suggest it is not justified. Take a listen.
Chairman around.
I don't know where this fuel prices are going through the roof is coming from. Don't forget, in this country, fuel prices have gone way up to 23 Ghana cedis before. Now, at the time that the fuel prices were 23 Ghana cedis, the lorry fares were even lower than they are right now. So I'm not sure whether there is need to panic about increase in lorry fares. This current pricing window, petrol was supposed to go up by about 3% and diesel was for about 1%. So I'm not sure there is need to panic because there's no need. And the price of petroleum product is done transparently. You don't need to even wait for MPA to announce. You can check it up on your own. There are websites that will give you prices of petroleum products and you can compare with Ghana, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, La Côte d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso. You can always compare and you recognize that ours is not the highest. Ours is by far one of the least in the West African sub-region. So there's no need to worry about this.
And he seems to suggest we've had instances where fuel prices had gone up as high as 23 cedis a litre, but transport fares remain low. I bet you agree with him.
Well, I'm afraid I can't take the position he takes. Daryl, I recall vividly how in 2023, personally had to intervene with the GPRCU national chairman and the other transport operators, the concerned drivers, the committed drivers, to reduce transport fares in this country, which they did. At the time, they didn't want to. They said they should keep their fares where it was, so that when fuel goes back again, they can get break even for whatever it was. We forced them to reduce fares when fuel prices came down. Unfortunately, what he is not considering is the rate of inflation plaguing the transport business. Again, Daryl, whilst I may not agree with the 20% and would wish that they could have done some 10% to be fair to the public, to suggest that fuel went to 23 and transport fares went up and now it is less than 23, so they should be able to contain it. I do think will be most unfair to the transport operators, being mindful of the rate of inflation we currently have and the fact that what the driver was paying for fuel just 6 weeks ago, he or she is currently paying more than 12% within just 6 weeks. So that suggestion, I'm afraid, I can't go with it. I can't go with it.
All right, and just as we're going on air, we're hearing that some of drivers have gone ahead to increase prices, and it appears that the drivers don't have patience today.
Daryl, it's not surprising that some of them will go ahead to increase prices of transport fares in the country. It is not surprising because, Daryl, what we have recently done, I have done a very simple calculation which I can share with you. A public transport operator who does say 10 gallons in the entire day is doing 45 liters, right? If on each liter they are going to have to pay 1 Ghana cedi extra due to the over 15-17% increment, what it means is that every single day they leave the house, they would need additional 45 Ghana 50 cedis to augment their cost of fuel alone. And so it becomes quite difficult to see how within a week the person would have spent 300 cedis more on their initial cost of operation, and then we still insist that nothing should be added to them. I think to be fair to them, something should be given. The quantum of which personally I would have proposed that maybe they do 10%, because I have said that most of the people who depend on their services are simply not the politicians. The people whom the transport operators believe have contributed to fuel prices, going up on a daily. They don't patronize the public transport services. So if they would need to go up, they should be mindful of their constituents or their customers, their clients. They don't have as much to do with the increasing rate of fuel prices and cost of spare parts and even cost of duty at the port. That means that if you are now buying a new bus or a new vehicle for public transport, you're paying more. These ordinary people like myself don't contribute to these high taxes at the port. They don't contribute to the high cost of fuel at the pump. They literally have no business at all in the kind of economy we have. So maybe they would need some little more to augment their operation. But 20%, they should come down a bit. That's all we ask.
Yeah, well, when you talk about the impact of the rising prices in general on the business of these transport operators, but we can also understand that the government is trying to keep fair prices. So looking at the impact on inflation, yesterday the Statistical Service released the March figures, and we've seen a huge jump. And so any potential increase in the prices of transport could affect everything else, Duncan.
Daryl, I perfectly agree with you. Things are not coming down. Things are not looking as, easy as if you listen to the political communicators, they would want you to believe. And so people are squeezed. There's a lot of recovery to do if you're a business person in an economy that has inflation, 25% and above. Clearly, people are squeezed through. But we would also want the service providers not to heap all of these, increases that they are seeing on the market onto their customers. Once you do that, you are simply going to take the money from your mothers, your aunties, the very people for whom you think you probably need more money. You are taking it from them. So they will come back to you, the truck driver, the Yusong bus driver, the Uber driver, say the money we took to the market, if it was 50, it's not able to buy the things we should buy because the market woman has also gone up on her price. We simply will be shortchanging ourselves. I think that yes, they could get some upward adjustment which is fair, but 20% may be a bit too high, considering the state of the economy currently and how people are squeezing.
All right, and finally, how is COPEC hoping to use your influence to affect the outcome of these engagements with government so at the end of the day, there are fair prices?
What I can put on the record is that on Monday, when we return from the holidays currently, we would engage the transport operators to be sure that at least we can all be on the same page with them. So that if they need to go back for any negotiation, they get something fair, something favorable, something that would not just inconvenience everybody simply because sometimes they are peeved by the way things are increasing on a daily.
All right, Duncan Amwa, Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, thank you so much. Happy holiday. Well, it's that time of the week where we mix business with politics, and while government has launched a performance tracker, a platform aimed at ensuring transparency and accountability in the execution of infrastructure projects across the country, is expected to serve as a reliable mechanism for showcasing the progress and impact of infrastructure projects, thereby instilling trust and confidence among citizens. Speaking at the launch, Minister of Works and Housing, Kojo Ponkruma, said the government has listed some 13,000 projects tagged with their geolocations on the website. Listen.
Performance tracker is first of all a database. It's a database that showcases the performance of the government of Ghana. And it showcases it through the various projects that have been executed across the 261 districts. And this database has two interfaces. One is a website So you can go onto that website, www.performancetracker.gov.gh, and you can access that database, and shortly I'll take you through that database. The other is an app. Today, the mobile phone is a very powerful tool, sometimes even beyond what your desktop can do. And on the app, on the iOS system, as at now, I'm told the app version has been uploaded, and in the coming weeks, on the Android system, the app version will also be uploaded. So it's a database. You can access it through a URL, performancetracker.gov.gh, or you can download the app and access that database. And what it does is that it showcases the performance of the government of Ghana across the 261 districts, across the 28 ministries, and across the 16 regions. Now, what I encourage you to do is to, as you go through the tracker, pick some of the data sets or the metrics that you find very important. I selected 8, which I want to share with you. And don't ask me why 8. I just found 8 to be an interesting number, so I picked 8. Now, these are just a few metrics, 8 metrics that I picked from the platform just to highlight. As I mentioned earlier, when you're talking about the conversation on roads, you will find about 11,974.96 kilometers of roads constructed and rehabilitated from 2017 to 2020. That's a 158% increase over the 2009 and 2016 data set. Jobs created between 2017 and June 2023, when this data was put in, a little over 2 million, so 2,087,000. And to tell you the source of the data coming from SNIT, so SNIT is the one that is providing this data. So for every data set that is uploaded there, the source will be made available.
Well, joining me is Executive Director of the Policy Initiative for Economic Development in Africa, Dr. Daniel Amate Enim. Happy holiday to you, sir. What do you make of this performance tracker platform launched by the government?
Thank you very much. To me, anything that will inform citizens about development within the economy, I perceive it to be quite progressive. My only worry is why now? Because this thing ought to be from the beginning. Why an election year? So people may read political meaning, and of course it may have a political undertone. Okay. Another area which I'm of the view that ought to be done very well, that they must avoid putting information that are not really on the ground. We know all this political perspective. For the fact that the government has announced that project A, B, C, D will be done, you may see such project being part of government performance. We don't want to see that. We want to see the real developmental project that the government is pursuing, the real performance of government, so that citizens could be better informed about how government is actually using their resources for the betterment of all citizens. So to me, it ought to be done that way. But my view is that any platform that will better inform citizens, I am for it, but it ought to be done devoid of political undertones and political manipulation.
Well, the government touts this as factual, credible, and accurate platform which will promote accountability and transparency, but there are already doubts cast about some of the projects highlighted in the tracker, which makes people think it is a ploy by the government to score cheap political points. Your thoughts?
Yes, just like I indicated earlier, we are in a political year, and the government is very keen breaking the heat. And looking through our political history, one may safely conclude that anytime government is coming out with projects, things that they have done, its essence is to convince the citizens that indeed they deserve another opportunity. And we have seen it, that yes, we may see so many tangible and realistic projects, but we may still be the business of misinformation in terms of the project. Probably the project might have started, or a thought might have been cut, and it will be captured as a project that has a certain percentage of control. Let me give you an empirical example, which I pray will not be passed. My stretch, Delta Federal Road, they started clearing the people around it. All indicates showing that very soon the construction may commence. If care is not taken, such a project may be captured as maybe government constructing the road at Delta Federal Road. These are some of the political perspectives that must be avoided so that we can really know the real and the tangible project that government has pursued or pursuing over the period, and on that score, indeed, they deserve another chance.
Well, so like we've been saying, it's an election year and each party would want to make a statement when it comes to infrastructure. How concerned do you think the electors are about infrastructure when they have to grapple with power crisis, rising inflation, and the current economic challenges? Would they be swayed by infrastructure?
Let me be frank with you. With the kind of work that we have done and the information we picked, citizens are more concerned about what is happening in their lives. For example, income level, their ability to demand to purchase goods and services. They are concerned about the cost of power, reliability of power, water, all the utilities. Things that they interact on a daily basis. That is the most critical thing that the citizens are considering. And it is against that background that government must ensure that we get our fundamentals very right. We ensure that the basic things of life, utilities, water, electricity, etc., shouldn't be a challenge. Okay, to me, if the data I've gathered, infrastructure is a secondary perspective for most citizens in terms of measuring the performance of government, particularly going year's election.
So what can be done to ensure this tracker does not end up being manipulated by the government of the day, and so that there is real accountability and transparency about state projects?
To me, government must demonstrate that they must manifest that credibility by ensuring that whatever data they put in there are credible, factual. People can really go out there, ascertain, and say, well, indeed, we have seen X, Y, Z. We visited a place. And I think the media have also a major role to play in this particular exercise by picking up some of the big things that they will apply, visiting the place, and then ascertain, report safe. And that is the way we can put government on its toes by ensuring that they strictly adhere to the principle of credibility and the principle of speaking the truth, so to speak.
And my final question is how we can address our infrastructure deficit. According to the World Bank, we need to spend almost $3.2 billion in the next decade if we are to close the gap.
It's quite a challenge. If you look at our political, economic history, this issue has been there. And to me, we need to prioritize what is it that is more important to bring about the ripple effect. So, for example, we know our food basket. They produce food, and they put from the northern Ghana to the south. The issue of transportation, how do we immediately address that particular issue? Right. Just like I've indicated, you see people, when you are coming from Somalia towards Accra, the traffic, a journey that will take you about 30 minutes, you may end up spending about 4 hours productivity. So these are some of the issues that ought to be addressed, and we must see it as a priority. Number two, to me, I think test, and that's the reason when government announced the Agenda 101, most of us were excited. But as I speak, I don't know the stages of completion, and then, of course, we will go into the tracker and see and ascertain the performance so far. These are some of the things that government ought to aggressively pursue. They cannot do everything, but the critical ones that will transport the economy, to me, they are very important that we need to focus on. Roads that link one city to another city, that will ensure that goods and services can move into another city, people can move and come into our business, productivity will increase, and ensuring that our health sector in terms of infrastructure is very sound, because COVID has told us that we need to invest in our health sector, and that's the reason some of us were excited about the Agenda 101. And I pray that it doesn't become a political piece, but it's something that the government will at least, make a very significant achievement in terms of Agenda 101 and then leaving it to the next government to continue with. So these are some of the things that ought to be prioritized. But frankly speaking, with our resources, I'm of the view that we may not be able to do all within the shortest possible time. But of course, the critical ones ought to be done to improve on productivity and to increase accessibility in terms of goods and services coming from one part of the country to the other.
Thank you so much, Dr. Daniel Amartey, Executive Director of the Policy Initiative for Development, Africa. Appreciate your time so much.
Most grateful.
Now, the Development Bank Ghana, as part of the Eid al-Fitr celebrations, has donated some food items to the Nsawam Prisons and Senior Correctional Center. According to Acting Head of Corporate Social Responsibility at the bank, Barbara Anawonu-Ricketts, the gesture is aimed at supporting the two institutions and helping to reform inmates.
By Development Bank Ghana to the Nsawam Medium Security Prisons and the Senior Correctional Center forms part of the company's corporate social responsibility, which is aimed at impacting the society. The items donated include food and toiletries. In an interview, Acting Head of Corporate Social Responsibility at the Development Bank Ghana, Barbara Anawonu-Ricketts, pledged the bank's support towards reforming people in the prisons and correctional centers.
As we all know, Ramadan is it's a significant festivity that is being observed by the Muslims, and in this month they usually fast, pray and almsgiving. So we thought it wise, as part of the Ramadan charity, to extend a hand to the prisons, and we considered the Nsawam prisons, and we looked at the Senior Correctional Center, which usually admits the young ones, 18 years and below. We thought it wise to support them with food supplies as part of the Ramadan charity initiative, to help them in the celebration and to remind them that they are not alone. It's just a phase of life where they have to go through the reformation and transformation. And when they come back into the society, we are always we have an open arms to embrace them and welcome them back into the society.
Assistant Director of Prisons at the Nsawam Medium Security Prison, Mohammed Mukhtar, expressed his appreciation to the bank and called on other institutions to emulate the gesture.
Development Bank, you've really shown that you are in to develop the society and the country at large. Tomorrow, they are celebrating the Eid al-Fitr. And you thought it wise to donate these items to support them, put some smile on their faces, and not any other person but the downtrodden, those we think they are criminals. And we are donating these items to them. In fact, it's a nice thing that you have done, and everybody's supposed to emulate what you have done. We shouldn't think that those who are in prison, they are all criminals. Prison is like a hospital. You can wake up in the morning, going to work, and you complain of headache. Before you find yourself, you'll be at the hospital. A little brush with the law can bring you to prison. Some of them here who have committed it, they have regretted, and they have changed. So we have to help them so that we can reform them to come and contribute their quota to the society.
The Nsawam Prison, which was founded in 1960, is home to over 3,000 inmates who are undergoing reforms and also accessing formal education.
All right, and that's the marketplace this holiday, but there is more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Our top story there, inflation to resume downward trajectory in April 2024. That's according to a report from GCB Capital. Also, March 2024 inflation increases sharply to 25.8%. myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your holiday.